a box and then add underneath it correct sentence structure, passe, syntax, grammar. Can you do that?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
You're talking to both of them.
Pardon?
That way you're talking to the fiction and fiction and the fact and fact.
Yes. Is that okay to use it like that? To do that. Great.
Where you're showing skill set. You know where you stand.
Yes. David, I want to just let you know, I apologise for this. I didn't notify you that I was recording our last conversation.
You're supposed to record everything with me.
Okay.
That way there's no misunderstandings.
Great. Well, I didn't notify you that. I didn't say that I was.
No, that's everybody's ordered to record me. So
Okay.
There's no misunderstandings for further study.
Okay, great.
I mean, I've done 2,500 seminars, both radio, live TV, and live person, and they're all recorded. So everything I say, everything I do in the history of my 36 years of doing this have been recorded.
Okay, great.
So I've got boxes and boxes and boxes, cases of VH tapes and 3.5-inch floppies and 5.5-inch floppies and USB chips and CDs and everything with the latest, newest recording devices as they came out in the last 35 years. When I started, hell, Microsoft wasn't even in business until '83, and I was doing this since '80. So everything had to be handwritten very neatly.
I bet.
I did it on a 1923 ribbon typewriter.
Wow.
Finger at a time. So, and one of the first judges I went up against was Moser. He was 96 years old.
Oh.
And he goes like, "Did you hand type this?" I goes, "Yeah." He says, "Did you use a Westinghouse 1923 typewriter?" I says, "Yeah." And the E is still out of location. He goes like, "That's why I recognize that." He says the E was always above where it was supposed to be.
Yes.
He says, "I had the same thing when I went to school back in the 20s." So now we got into. He said, "How long did it take you to write this?" I says, "Well, one key at a time, and not to make any mistakes, and look up every word. 4.5 months, and it was only a 6-page document." And he was impressed with the amount of. He said, "How did you get your name in lowercase when everything else was spelled in caps?" I said, "I used the needle nose pliers and a screwdriver, and I lifted the key up and I tapped it in place."
Oh, wow.
So I would become a nom de guerre. He says, "Clever." And it says my shift is broke on my, so I had to type in all caps. He says, "Well, that's called a shout. That's when I learned what the word shout meant. It means a command. It must be obeyed." So even though I was making a mistake, I was actually doing it correct. And it's been the way ever since. So a lot of things happened to me in this whole entire adventure in 36 years. A lot of it by accident, but then it wasn't an accident. It was actually directed, or I was, guided by mysterious forces to go and do what I did, and go to jail and stand up in front of a judge and say all the right things. And today, after all that experience, the judges don't even question it. "Oh, yeah, we've already studied your course, and you know what you're doing, you know who you are, so we're not going to even entertain that here, and you've published all your information, it's correct, so we know that you know what you're doing." So they're all real cooperative with me.
Okay. Well, thank
Even
you.
those that scream at me and say, "You're not a federal judge, you're not a federal postal judge." 2 or 3 times they do that, and they come back and say, "Judge Miller, I apologize for my behavior in the past, and that we finally did our research on you, and it turns out you are everything you say you are, and I apologize." So they come back, and they're always cooperative after the fact. When I go to court and I pay to have a case heard, I'm the judge on the case. The judge may think he's in there trying to dismiss something. He doesn't have jurisdiction because I'm the guy standing in the courtroom. I'm the director of the courtroom for my country, and he is sitting on a plane outside of my country. So I can't see or hear him. And I'll even walk into court and I'll tell the judge, I says, you know, I can't see or hear you because you're on a different plane than I am. It says, and I'm the only federal judge, and I hold up my oath, and I'm registered in this building, this vessel in dry dock as the chief federal postal judge, and I'm responsible for the vessels to be correct. And then I turn around and deputize his bailiff as my tip staff, make him stand to attention and follow my instructions to arrest the judge for being an imposter without an oath of office, and he goes running out of the courtroom.
Wow.
You got to be there to see it happen. I did it. I usually I'm pretty quiet about it, but every now and then a judge will piss me off, and then I'll order him arrested in front of about 40 of my students who come to court to watch me.
We'd love to see that in England.
Yeah, well, I'm a barrister with the England. Queen Elizabeth personally made me a barrister, and the Supreme Court of New South Wales, Australia, and New Zealand made me a federal land court judge. So then I prosecuted 129 of their judges. They were kind of pissed, so they pulled my visa to be in the country, so I had to leave.
Well, that with my question about my statement about the recordings, can I have permission from you to use some of our last conversation in our video, because we had a video interview in London on Saturday with our friend, and that was a few hours long.
Yeah.
Great.
Fine.
Thank you very much.
I have everything I told you is boilerplate, so don't worry about it.
Great.
I don't make up stories. I can prove everything I say in writing and videos and everything else. And I know what I'm talking about when it comes to the British government.
Yeah.
You know, I was watching Gandhi the other night, the movie with Ben Gazzara's, or Ben Kingsley. And the injustices that England, you know, we're the big bad boys here, and we're going to tell you what to do. And like Gandhi said to the Queen, there's 600 million of us, and there's 1,800 of you. You can't control this. Leave. He said, or 180,000 of us will walk up and sacrifice ourselves, and there'll still be 600 million of us and none of you. And Queen Elizabeth took the jest and got out of it. But after England left, 2 million Muslims and Hindus died in the first 5 days of fighting, because there was nobody there to stop them. That's what happens when a system loses its police force. And in order for evil to flourish, good people must do nothing. Now, England was doing some things correct, but then they were taxing salt, and they were trying to beat the people down with a control system that was unjust, where a police officer can walk into anybody's home and dishonor the women. And of course, the Muslims and the Hindus, they weren't going to sit for that. They were going to kill the soldiers that did that right on the spot, and they did. Many of them were massacred. And the British massacred a lot of the Indians, and those massacres were England lost credibility worldwide. They massacred. There was a massacre in India. There was a massacre of 1,129 Solomon Island people because the British wanted to steal the gold, the diamonds, and the timber, and they didn't want the English had no right to come in there and strip their island and rape the island. And so they protested, and so the Admiralty killed 1,129 people, just lined them up and machine gunned them down. And from 1929 to 2002, nobody touched that case. The Solomon Island attorneys, which few there were, every time they stood up to make an argument, were shot down. And then after 1947, when the World Court at The Hague was created for genocide and apartheid issues, one of the big cases was the African blood diamond, where 385,000 people were murdered over blood diamonds. I went there in 2002, and it took me, I did a 3-day seminar teaching the Solomon Island people in Guadalcanal of grammar, and then one of the chiefs stood up and said, what about the genocide of our people in 1929? I says, how did that happen? I said, well, the Admiralty came ashore and had an order to kill us. I says, do you have that order? And the British and the Canadians were in audience, the ambassadors. So I took that order and I put it up on a 4x8 foot sheet whiteboard, and I wrote it down in syntax that for the adverb, verb, fictitious conveyance of grammar. And the British and the Canadians got up and walked out to the applaud of 125 Solomon Island citizens, and 55 of the 70 chiefs for the Solomon Islands were there. I got to meet all 70 chiefs in the 10 days I was in the Solomon Islands. They all came to Guadalcanal to meet me. Some spent 8 weeks in an open canoe from 700 miles away paddling to get to Guadalcanal to meet me. That's the kind of impression I made upon the people of the world. And then the Cook Island and the Marshall Islands both sued for me to come in and stop the Chinese from invading their islands.
David, thank you for. I feel very emotional just you telling us. It's very.
So
I don't know how to say.
I wrote the lawsuit and educated the 7 attorneys that worked for the Solomon Island people, and I did it in quantum, and it was taken to The Hague. And in August 2012, we won an $880 million judgment against the English government, and they paid it in gold to the Solomon Island people.
Wow.
So it's
incredible.
Wow.
Those are some of the little things I did, and then I went into Australia in 2002, right after that. And at first I went to Fiji because I couldn't go to Australia, and then Australia lifted the ban on me, and I came in there. And I spent, I think, I made 12 round trip from LAX, Los Angeles to Sydney, traveled all around the country, spent a month each time I went there, doing seminars and prosecuting cases. And I also went over to New Zealand as well with the Maoris. And I unified all 1,200 tribes of the Maoris, organized the 23 organized crime groups into one police force, organized 3,850 Aborigine tribes in Australia. They called me the Spirit Walker, because everywhere I went, the judges were prosecuted, and I kept on walking around, and they're going like, why is this guy alive? How come they don't off him? And after 129 cases, they decided to pull my visa. That was the U.S. State Department's idea. Otherwise, they didn't know what to do with me, and then I had to leave the country. So I've been out of Australia now for 6 years, 7 years. And but now I do Skype seminars all over the world: Romania, Norway, England with Mark, and Spain, the Middle East, India. Doesn't matter where I go on the planets, I do it by Skype. Yeah. It's instantaneous. We got a nice picture, as you can see. So technology, the reason I'm successful is that the world has evolved so that the technology brings this to bear. I gotta answer the door. Mailman's here.
Okay.
What's the other question that you need to do to him?
That's it. It was about the cookie cat stuff, but I think...
There's 4 questions in there.
No, that's a statement.
So what's the second one?
No, that was apologising. I've already done it.
Ah, okay. So is the cookie stuff?
Yes. fine. That's good. I got emotional then. You know, that's...
See? Handle with care. The gorillas.
Wow. Well, David, as you were telling me, I was getting very emotional about what you've done for people. It's amazing what you're doing. I don't know what else how to say it. It's amazing.
Well, it's...
With the white man or the ghost face, are they English or are they just the white man? Do you understand what I'm saying? What I mean?
Well, they got all kinds of stories floating around out there. I'm not going to speculate on any of them. So.
No, okay, no. But England seems to be involved in a lot of things like that.
Well, they've done a few bad things, as far as I'm concerned. All right, guys. You have a good day.
You too. You enjoy the rest of your day, David. Thank you so much.
Bye bye.
All right.
Bye for now. Bye bye.